Chad, I was thinking, there's got to be more to my life than just being ridiculously, really, really good looking.
Well, you could run a profitable gym
Ooh,
as well.
well, I guess I could try that. Like, how would you know that's an option?
Well, I have been a successful model and I run a profitable gym. So
Oh,
I should know.
yeah, prove it. Give me your signature look. If you're a model, you have a signature look. Prove it. Oh, oh, it's like looking into the sun. Okay, I'm gonna have to ask. Are you up for talking about the gym too?
Absolutely. I would love to. Honored.
All right, we're on it. This is Run a Profitable Gym. I'm your host, Mike Workington. Every week, I talk to the world's best gym owners. I find out what they're doing in their businesses. You want to subscribe so that you can hear all the tips and tricks. Now, today, my guest, the good natured Chad Pinther, is here. He runs Colfax Strong in Denver with his wife, Esther. She was an accomplished swimmer and gymnast. Chad, you might have seen him on a billboard or even in a magazine. He's worked as a model for 20 years. We're not going to make Zoolander jokes anymore. We're going to actually get into the business, even though Chad humored me on the way in. He's here to talk about earning a spot on Two Brains leaderboard for net owner benefit in January. Now, net owner benefit, NOB, is the sum total of what an owner gets from their gym. Could be wages, could be dividends, could be other benefits. Our leaderboard in January ran from $16,000 to over $21,000. Those are huge numbers. Now, this is a rolling 3-month average, not a flash in the pan or one good month. These owners are earning like $48,000, $62,000 per quarter. And that's not revenue or profit. That's what they're taking home to their families. So this is a big deal. You're going to want to hear what Chad has to say. So let's get to it. Chad, welcome to the show. Thanks for hearing me in the intro.
You got it. Thanks so much. Big honor to be on here. I appreciate it.
I can't wait to talk to you about this because when I started a gym, I paid myself. My net order benefit was zero. It was nothing.
Yep.
I didn't pay myself. I slaved away as a labor of love. It was a side project. It wasn't until I started getting into the two brain thing that I started paying myself and actually earning stuff from it. So talking to gym owners who have had this success is mind blowing to me. So let's get right into it. Talk to me a little bit of how this number has changed over time. What have you done? Where did you start? Where'd you go?
Sure. Yeah, Mike, I completely understand that. So my wife and I did the same thing. We didn't really make anything, and even when we were making some money initially, we weren't paying ourselves anything. But once we got on with Two Brain and really started to work predominantly the profit first
Mhm.
sort of framework, then we've gone basically 3 times since we opened 2019. Um, yeah, and not only increased our gross revenue 3 times during that time period, but we were also able to increase our net owner benefit 3 times correspondingly.
Wow. So you said originally when you started doing this, you got some increases, but you didn't pay yourself anymore. Where was that money going? Because for me, every time I made something, I put it into some more kettlebells or I expanded or did something, and I never thought to pay myself. So what were you doing originally?
Yeah, so it was a combination of paying off any debt. I'm really big on being debt free.
Yeah.
Worked really hard in my life to remain completely debt free, other than like a mortgage. And so we paid off a lot of the debt that we had to purchase the business. Little backstory: we actually bought the gym from the original owners that had opened in 2013, and we grabbed it in February 2019.
Okay.
So we paid off the debt, but also we were living in that fear mentality, kind of a
Mhm.
scarcity ideology of, oh man, we got to save this. So we would just leave it in the business account, right? And it did accumulate, but weren't really giving ourselves anything out of that.
And that works for a while because I did the same thing. We're very similar. It sounds like where I don't like debt and I like to have a security blanket and so forth. But after a while, you kind of start thinking, man, I'd like to see some benefit from owning this business, right? Like maybe it
Right.
can make my life a little better. And I wasn't doing that. So let's before we get into the exact details here, just tell me a little bit about Colfax. What do you guys do
Sure.
there? What's your structure? Like, what are you selling? How does it work?
Great. Yeah. So we are near downtown Denver. Our doing business as name is CrossFit Colfax. I'm sorry, Colfax Strong Strength and Conditioning, but we are still affiliated with CrossFit. So we are a
Mhm.
CrossFit gym, and our affiliate name is CrossFit Colfax.
Okay.
So we provide predominantly group, but over the last year, we really ramped up doing personal training. So that's been a huge part of our increase as well.
Mhm.
We also provide nutrition services as well. So those are that's the work that we do in the gym.
Okay, so that's similar to what a lot of gyms do. The interesting part is that as a CrossFit affiliate, group classes are obviously the main thing, adding personal training as a revenue stream and a
Right.
nutrition revenue stream. All that stuff goes together, like cookies and cream, obviously. Like if you run a fitness business, a nutrition add-on is a huge deal. We'll get into that a little bit more, but I want to ask you before you get into that, like what's your net owner benefit strategy? Because there's tons of ways that people do this. Like some people will just take a salary from the gym. Other people have corporate structures with wages and dividends and things like that.
Right.
Chris Cooper will bill his truck and his cell phone through his companies and so forth. So how do you look at this with you and your wife? What's your plan?
Sure. So I mentioned it before, the profit first sort of framework. I think a lot of times the idea is in most businesses is that you pay yourself after all your expenses, et cetera.
Mhm.
And of course, the great book Profit First was super helpful, recommended by our mentor Lisa. We originally started with Tammy, and then Tammy retired, and we jumped on with Lisa. She's been fantastic. She's in the UK, and so the where we start with is what it is that we would like to make, right? As far as our expenses, et cetera, our savings goals. And then we build things from there. And then paying ourselves first out of that with what's coming in the business. And then that helps us structure how we do our expenses, et cetera.
Okay.
So we have a definitive salary for my wife Esther and I, and that's automatically taken out. So it's not a situation where we're looking at each month. Oh, I think we've got enough to pay ourselves. It's definitively given to us, as well as automatically setting aside everything for retirement in our savings goals.
Okay.
Yep. And
So
then we do some. Oh, sorry.
you go ahead, finish off that
Yeah,
thought.
and then we do some distributions
Mhm.
once we know that we've paid taxes and things like that, paid obviously all of our coaches and everything, and got that. Then we're able to pull some additional distributions out that we can utilize for other things that we're doing within additional investments and things like that. Um, and we're also building some liquid capital because we want to move into doing some real estate investment as well. In the next year here, we've got plans for that.
Oh, I'm excited to have you back and hear about that stuff because that would be very cool.
Yeah.
So, when you say profit first, are you referring to the John Briggs profit first from micro gyms, that specific variation, or the larger profit
Yes.
first? Yeah. Okay. So,
Micro
listeners, if
gyms.
you haven't
Yep.
seen this, we'll put a link to the book John Briggs wrote. He wrote Profit First variation. It's specifically for micro gyms, and
Right.
he'll tell you how this whole situation works. John has been on the show as well many times, and he can help people out with tax and accounting. So that's a big plug for him. The concept, though, is that rather than pay yourself last, and this is exactly what I did, I ran a gym and I thought if there's money left over, I'll pay myself something. And then, of course, there was never money left over because I always allocated it to other stuff, or I sat on it because I was scared that I wanted to build up a savings or anything like that. And eventually I got angry that I wasn't making any money. So the profit
Right.
first concept tells you you pay this to yourself, you take the profit out, you take that money out for yourself first, and then you allocate things. There's a whole system of accounts that you can actually set up, and there are streamlined or very specific variations of this where you have like your tax account, your operations account, all these different things. And you start to put that money aside so that it's always there. Now, did you follow that exact plan, like the regimented, all these different bank accounts kind of thing?
Full disclosure, no, I did not.
Yep, that's okay.
I personally thought that was, in concept, fantastic. I thought it was quite a bit um, complex, more than I wanted to kind of have a lot of
Mhm.
those moving parts. But of course, we obviously have a definitive business account, right? We keep everything separate from personal,
Mhm.
um, as well as I've got a CPA that we work with, and they've got access to all of our QuickBooks that they know exactly. Okay, Chad, here's what's coming in. Here's what we know you need to take out, and so, like towards the end of the year, she can kind of see projections and she'd say, okay, we might be a little bit short here. so we're going to do an extra draw out for your taxes. So I've
Right.
got somebody on that that's managing that, so it's not like a big surprise at the end of the year, like, oh, we owe this much more money. And so we had a record year this year. We'll probably have one this coming year for sure. But having somebody on that, I think, is just as effective for us as having all these separate accounts that I don't have to think about moving and shifting things around.
Yeah, it depends on the person. I'm like you. I don't want to have 7 different bank accounts. But if you're someone
Right.
else who really doesn't have a good handle on things, what can happen with one account is you drain it and then you don't have money for
Right.
tax at the end of the year. So, like a simple principle is setting aside an account where the tax goes in so that you're not short at the end of the year. You can do either system, whatever works for you. But the point here, gym owners, if you're listening, is that you need to look at your books or have someone that is looking at your books and helping you through that. So, I want to ask you about the profit first system. When you decided, when you sat down and said, okay, I'm going to start paying ourselves, we're going to pay ourselves this thing, did you set like an aspirational number where you were going to have to backfill some revenue, or was this something that was based on current revenue and then you wanted to build that up in tandem? How did that work?
Yeah. Honestly, it wasn't initially as thoughtful as it probably should have been. I was really looking at things not from that mentality at first. I was literally looking at, okay, what do we have? Okay, this count's building up. Now we can start paying some um, to ourselves. So I had to personally, because I'm very conservative with finances, I had to kind of get some confidence built
Yeah.
that, oh, okay, this is actually continuously happening, right? I had to build confidence in the system that we were creating in the gym, confidence in my team, confidence in what we were providing. And then that started to be reflected in what we were seeing income wise. And there was more money in there. So then I started to, okay, we need to start drawing. That was initially kind of a reactionary sort of model. But now we look more things about, okay, here's what we would like to have, and here's the goals we need to hit for sales with the team, in general, gross revenue with the gym, and then actually being able to try to hit those goals.
Okay, so was it like, what was the feeling the first month when you actually like paid yourself? Was this like, was it scary? Did it feel great? Like, how did it feel? Because for everyone, it's a little bit different.
Yeah. It was definitely a feeling of accomplishment to
Yeah.
actually have something coming into the account. Um, but I still, again, I'm always a little tentative. I kind of operate a little bit off of like, I don't know if this is going to work out, right? Um, but the real feeling was like, you know what? We can actually support ourselves with this business. I know a lot of people who run these gyms kind of as a second kind of side hustle, and I totally respect that. But I had always funneled in from my modeling business. It supported the business to start. When we bought the business, it was truly not making really any money, and was on a projection downward. And so took a big risk, like getting involved in the first place. But the real turning point for us was when I realized, oh, we can actually take what we need to pay our bills, to meet our savings goals, et cetera. And I was able to step away from the modeling thing because I was really pretty exhausted from traveling
Mhm.
for, up to 6 months out of the year. I wanted to be home. We have a 14-year-old daughter. Wanted to be home more with my wife and run the business together. So to be able to step away from that and know, all right, we can do this 100% was a real sense of accomplishment.
Well, that's amazing too. So you start this thing, and it's essentially you're funneling money into it to prop it up, and
Right.
then it now allows you, because you've built it up properly. It now allows you to make a lifestyle change that works for you and your family, and your current situation. So that's a really cool story. And listeners, the profit first idea of paying yourself what you want can be scary. And the money doesn't come from nowhere. It doesn't just magically appear because you decide to like, oh, I'm going to pay myself $50,000. It doesn't just appear. The principle is this though, as a gym owner, you are a type A person for the probably, right? Like if you want to improve your deadlift,
Right.
you want to improve your fitness, you are going to drive and accomplish goals. So if you decide I'm going to pay myself this, the principle then is you're going to figure out how to make the revenue to pay for that and to make sure that's there. Okay. So it's not just a snap your fingers, money appears in the account. There actually is a plan for this. And we're going to get into that a little bit now because you obviously took over a business that was trending downward, not looking good, and you're propping it up. Then you decide, okay, I'm going to pay ourselves. We're going to do something. How do you build up the revenue now to make that happen? What did you do? Like, what were the exact tactics you used to start making this thing profitable?
Yeah, Mike, thank you. This is something I thought a lot about before we were going to meet here today. And I thought, okay, essentially we have to understand you can't just say, all right, I just want to take more money, right? The money has to be there. That was the theme that kept coming into my mind. The
Mhm.
money's got to be there, and you've got to generate that money from someplace, right? And this is where, first period, without question, the number one thing that effectively changed all of this and has allowed us to make progress was we got a two-brain mentor, right? To start that process, when we first bought this business, um, I didn't know what I was doing, right? I loved CrossFit. We had started a little small, community gym in our garage because I had interviewed a bunch of owners of a successful long-term CrossFit sort of gyms and affiliates, and I asked them, how do I get started? And many of them said, you know what, get your feet wet in a like just doing your garage. Many of it started that way
Mhm.
because there's a difference between doing CrossFit and then running the business, obviously. So we started in our garage and set it up like a little mini box. We even had Wi-Fi. At the time, CrossFit had a little gym, gym affiliate thing you could do, right? We checked in athletes, but when we got to about 20 people, we can't only train so many people. We heard about CrossFit Colfax selling, and I went down there with my wife, and we met the owners, and we kind of took a look at it. But I realized right away, not sure if I know what I'm doing here.
Mhm.
And I'm a person who's always like, okay, I need to go find the people who know what they're doing, the experts, and then ask them what they're doing and then execute that, right?
Great plan.
So I literally searched how to run a gym, and first thing that pops up, two brain. And I thought, I don't know, like, because there was quite a significant buy-in up front, and I did some research on a lot of testimonials, and they're like, hey, it's a lot of front load work, building your processes out, etc. And I thought, I don't know if we can pull this off. We're already pretty buried with what we're doing to get this going, but everybody said it's worth it. And I saw how many people were making more exponentially and setting things up, and I thought, you know what, this has been around this long. Um, you know, I don't want to make all the same mistakes. So
Mhm.
we signed on with Two Brain, got started, like I said, initially with Tammy. And it is the thing that has helped us get where we are today. I'm really good at if you tell me what to do and I can execute it, right? So like do this, do that. And they've never steered us wrong. Going through the modules, watching all of that to start, and then just those monthly calls, getting that support saying, hey, I don't know how to fix this problem. Can you help me? And they're like, absolutely. Because they already own gyms, and they're like, absolutely. Here's what you do. And truly, never at any point have we ever been steered wrong, and
Wow.
everything has worked out. So that's the first thing, getting on board. And then out of that, the wellspring from that is all these pieces between hiring the right
Mhm.
staff, right? Um, Knowing what to look for, paying them. For us, we really pay our staff well. We take good care of them. They're wonderful people. It's a fantastic team. Super grateful for them. And so that translates to members feeling well taken care of.
Mhm.
Adopting the process of how we bring people into the gym, making sure that we understand that they're the right fit, the right avatar, so to speak, for our gym, both financially speaking and the community, so we can protect that community. Just a really robust lead management system, right? When we bought the gym, it didn't even have a phone in there. There was no one could even call. So we put a phone in there, obviously. We started a lead management. We got on with Gym Lead Machine, which has been fantastic. So where people could get on our website, and because the whole thing is you got to get them in the door, right? And then we can sit down. So then building out that system of bringing them in, making sure they're prepared to get on the floor, paying attention to the details, taking care of the gym, making sure it's really clean, right? Taking care of the equipment. We do the prescriptive model of how we know people's goals, and then all along 90-day goal reviews. Okay, we actually build in in-body scans during every 90-day goal review ourselves. So all those steps like came out of the guidance from Two Brain. So that's the main sort of pieces that have ultimately increased the pot of which we're bringing in that gross income, because you can't have a high net owner benefit unless you've got the actual money coming in. So you got to create an excellent service, right, that has a ton of value, and then you have confidence, right? This is the really key piece that I lacked. We really, when we first got started, we kind of went with come try a class. If you like it, get started, right? Um, and we were really kind of doing that for a little while with that, and really like, okay, feeling like, are you okay paying this? Like that was kind of the feeling. And as we grew with confidence, as we got that mentorship, as we built a gym and a service that was in high regard and that people really got results from, then we gained confidence in letting go of that fear of asking and requiring payment for what the service is worth, right? So believing in what you're providing and then charging what that's worth. So you first got to create that service that people think this is worth every penny, or I would pay double for this. I don't want to be without this, right? So all those pieces came into creating that bigger pot for us that would allow us to thus increase our net owner benefit.
So that's an incredible story. So but the boil it down simply is that you bought a gym that was trending downwards. You got a mentor, bolted in the Two Brain plan step by step, and you tripled your
Right.
take home as an owner.
Yep.
Wow.
Exactly.
What was the year? How soon after buying the gym did you get a mentor? What was the year there?
February 2019 is when we were given the keys, and I believe we started later that year. I think we started late that year in 2019. Yep, that's true, because we started to really put in place the things that they were teaching us, and then pandemic hits. In fact,
Yeah.
we had a record. So pandemic came, was it February or March of 2020,
Yep.
right? And in Denver was a very compliant,
Mm-hmm.
right, state for like what you had to do. We had to tape all this, things out. But
Yeah.
once we had a record January, right? We had got our membership up to about 110, um, which is amazing considering that we bought the gym and it had 70, and we had to change so many things because of how the gym was run, the culture in the gym, that of those 70, we probably lost 60 of those
Mm-hmm.
people, right? But we started the lead management system, all this stuff, and we were backfilling the whole time. So January, we had a record January 2020, and then boom, pandemic hits. And we were like, are you kidding me? Like, are we going to survive this? What's going to happen? But again, we like really leaned on our mentor, and she was like, Chad, do this, do this, do this, right? And so we had actions we were taking. We were closed for about 2.5 months. Then once we got open, there was a whole plan. Here's what you do when you open. Here's how you even set up your gym, right? So I just didn't even have to think about that. So that was super helpful for us to go. So considering that we're 3 times, even with the pandemic and even with some of the losses we had, is pretty phenomenal having to
Yeah.
rebuild the gym that way.
I love hearing when people implement the plan to a T. And that's not to say that you can't freelance stuff, but the stuff that Two Brain kicks out has been tested. Hundreds of gyms have done it and it works. And I just spoke to a gym owner about the exact same thing. Her name was Jody Butler. She's in Pittsburgh, also on the leaderboard. And she said the same thing. She stuck to the plan, put the stuff in place, and it worked like a charm. She took a slightly different path with different things, but you guys ended up in the same spot at the end. So I want to ask you specifically about this one because I think it's probably a big one. I ran a CrossFit gym for a long time and we focused on group training. And I imagine that Colfax did a lot of that too. Talk to me about
Yep.
adding PT and what that did for a CrossFit affiliate and a gym business.
Yeah. I have to credit one of our particular trainers, for the most part, who we hired and brought in, from outside the gym, and he came from like a personal training like institute, right? It was his thing. So when he came in, he really kind of helped us build a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that, right? How to do that, and then how to actually deliver that service. So suddenly, now you're not chasing down a bunch of people for group, right? Now you've
Mm-hmm.
got these people who, by and large, are coming in and they're staying on for a longer period of time. So that was a huge benefit. And we didn't even have on our website, um, the original website that the gym we inherited from the original owners didn't even have any ability to click anywhere of like, I want to do personal training. So Gym Lead Machine has dialed that stuff in. It's all on. So literally one click, boom, I'm in for a consultation. So that was present finally, and that started to bring in those people. And then once they get in there, if you've got a really good personal training, program and coaches there, you start to really increase your revenue, because obviously what you're pulling in for each person is so much more than, a general group membership.
Okay. So I'm going to tie this back to the profit first thing where you say, okay, I want to pay myself this. I'm going to do that. And then you got to figure out where the money comes from. And gym owners, if you're listening out there, one of the places the money often comes from is I'm selling group classes, not selling personal training. I need to start selling personal training, or maybe I can add on nutrition services, or maybe it's a kids program. We don't recommend you do all the programs, but like 3 or 4 really strong revenue streams are going to help you run a profitable business. Another thing that I thought was really interesting that you were talking about is using someone in your staff to, getting a real good handle on what the staff member has and then using that to grow the business. So you're leaning on these really great staff members and doing a great job of upgrading your business. So if you start thinking about profit first, you're finding ways to get the revenue. Another spot, my gym doesn't have a phone and my website doesn't have a way to get in. That's a pretty obvious place where you need to get the slippery slide going into your business. And so
Right.
the idea is I want to make this. Here's how we do it. And it's like analyzing, is my website any good? Do I have leads coming in? Are my rates okay? All these different things. And that's where Mentor tells you tactically, do this, do this, do this, bolt in this solution, fix this. And then all of a sudden, you start getting the things that you need in place. The revenue goes up. So I want to ask you about average revenue per member. Often when you see people who've bought CrossFit gyms, the revenue is low to start, say for group training, and we always want gym owners to increase average revenue per member. And that doesn't mean you're gouging members. What it means is you're providing huge amounts of value to help them accomplish their goals. And they're willing to pay for that because goals are a big deal, right? So did your average revenue per member go up a lot from the time you bought the gym to now?
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time. We also, man, so many things here, Mike, that you're making. You made me think a lot about all the things that go into how we generate more and provide better service. But, um, when we started, the members that we inherited were and this was part of the change that needed to happen. I feel like we could do a whole podcast on like buying somebody else's
Yeah,
gym. So
for
we
sure.
should think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we had a lot of people in the gym that were in that mentality of a 24-hour fitness globo gym ish, right? Where, hey, if I sign on at this rate, then it stays like that forever, right? And we had some people that were paying just really low, and it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't their fault. It was the previous owner's fault. So we had to both try to re-educate. Right now, but here the service we're providing so much more, because you can't just go, all right, you're going to pay more money now.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to say we're going to give you more. It's so much more value, but we are going to have to charge more, right? Because we've got to pay for ourselves. We've got to pay our coach as well. So we had to really change that, and that unfortunately caused us to lose a good chunk of people as we started to do maybe a rate increase, right? Maybe a rate leveling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Two different things. And we did different steps and processes with that, whether it was a level or whether it was an increase. And again, Two Brain provides the exact template how to do that. We followed that. It worked great. Yes, we lost a few people, but it in the end always ends up in the positive, right? Um, so yes, what we started out with was, you know, exponentially bigger now, right? And then another big change that we did was when we started to change the process of how we brought people in and integrate personal training directly into that process.
Yes,
So
and that's
before you
tied to
get
average revenue per member big time because
right,
it's a better
right.
service. Yeah.
Plus, so for us at our gym to even get on the floor, we want to make sure that you're ready and
Mm-hmm.
prepared to fully take on a lot of these movements that can often be technical and they can be intimidating for a lot of people. We want to make sure that people have the confidence to actually get out there. And so we require three one-on-one personal training sessions per person, regardless of your experience. We got
Mm-hmm.
people come in like, I've been doing CrossFit for 10, 15 years, but we all know we all have our movement faults, right? We
Yeah.
all have things that we need to work on. But predominantly we have, your average person coming in, a lot of people brand new. So the great thing about that is not only does it give them the confidence, but they start to establish that relationship early on, and they see the value in personal training. When your model is just, hey, come try a class,
Go in.
join, right? You don't see any value in that, and you can be struggling through some of these movements for sometimes, months or whatever. But you see one session, right, or a skill session, because we provide those two, like a 30-minute skill session. They can see, wow, I can really change like in a positive direction and get a lot of this movement. So um, that was big for us because now that exponentially increases, right, what people are paying when they start. They're more confident, they feel better, the service is better, but that allows us to have increased revenue.
Yeah, and you mentioned a couple of things earlier, the prescriptive model and goal reviews and so forth. Listeners, the quick summary is exactly what Chad's talking about here. Instead of just having people come in for a free trial and chucking them in the class or whatever, you actually have a client journey and you've laid out exactly how every person starts at your gym and the whole process. And that process starts with a free consultation. They come in, they tell you about their goals. Then you prescribe the best solution to their problems and help them accomplish their goals. And that might be personal training and nutrition, plus some group classes at a rate of $500 a month or something like that. All of a sudden, this person says, I can accomplish all my goals if I follow your plan. Take my credit card. And the gym wins, the person wins. There's value in the transaction. It's not a gouging situation. It's about value. And that's where you start getting very high average revenue per member rates. And that's where you start getting very high gross revenue, profit, and net owner benefit rates. And it's all tied to this prescriptive model of intake. And I'll put a link in the show notes for you so you can take a close look at this. And then the thing that's built into the prescriptive model in this client journey is exactly what Chad mentioned earlier, goal reviews. You find out about the goals, then you meet with the clients. Are we accomplishing the goals? If so, you celebrate. If not, you adjust the plan and you keep going. And some people will upgrade their plans. Talk to me a little bit about what goal reviews and check-ins with clients has done for retention, because I don't know a single gym owner who has a great income who doesn't have great retention?
Yep. So within that, we've worked with again. I just want to back up for 1 second
Yeah.
and talk about because this is related to this as far as the team that we've gotten and allowing um, us to have a team that can exercise their strengths. Right. Two pieces to this, like providing the mentorship, getting the mentorship um, from Two Brain, right? That instructs us how to get a great team in, and then let them do what they're really good at, and allow Esther and I to do what we're really good at. Like I'm really great at running the business, doing the finances. Esther runs the community. She builds that community. She runs the events. And now we can really help get these people in to do what they do best, and that's working for us. That's a team that works really great with people, right?
Yeah.
They coach better than I can ever coach. And then in conjunction with that, coming back to the prescriptive model, they're great at sitting down with people, because we build our 3 full-time coaches directly into the intake process, right? We want them to have that contact as soon as they walk in the door with who they're going to see out on that floor. So they sit down with people, bring them in, find out what they're working on, et cetera. And then in subsequent 90 days, myself, my wife, and all of our coaches, we take part in these meetings. So these coaches can work with the people, can make these um, recommendations and specific action steps that get them to their goals, right? So that's been helpful. And in part of that, I'm had to work with them on getting confidence in saying, hey, let's book you a PT session,
Mhm.
right? If you've been struggling to get handstands, if you've been struggling to really work on your Olympic lifts, hey, we've got the barbell club over here, right? Which is a whole nother side thing as well that we have, that's kind of intrapreneurialism, where we allow our coaches to build their own businesses inside the business.
Mhm.
So let's try a barbell club. We can really dial in just your lifts. So teaching them how to be confident in selling, right? But not for the purpose of just selling to make money. We're doing it to provide what the client wants, giving them the service that they need, and literally changing their life for the better. But teaching our team how to do that in those 90-day goal reviews.
So you integrated your staff completely into the prescriptive model. That's the intake all the way to retention, and the business is succeeding as a result. And you're creating great careers for people who want to work in the fitness industry, not just as an owner, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep,
So that, I mean,
exactly.
that's such a great story. And that's from a business that you said was trending downward. I know Denver is not a cheap city. It wouldn't take much to put a business under in Denver. So you took a business that was going downward and took it to a place where you've got great careers for coaches. You've got satisfied, happy, long-term, high value clients. You've got a great income for you and your wife that allows you to live a life that you want with your daughter. Sounds like a pretty fairy tale story.
Yeah, super lucky, super grateful. I've got a great partner. My wife's just amazing. I don't think a lot of people could both work and be together all the
Mm-hmm.
time. Fortunately, we really enjoy spending time together, thankfully. But yeah, and we're just really lucky to have a fantastic team of people.
Mm-hmm.
We've also got a CSM, a client success manager, who's directly integrated into the intake process and manages people throughout that whole process of when they come in. That's their point of contact. That position's really grown as well. And then we really just knew this January, again, we're projecting, record income as well, because we completely overhauled our nutrition program.
Mm.
Before, weren't really totally bought in to how we were providing it. I was really frustrated with why it wasn't working. So I finally took advantage of some office hours that Cynthia Fati put on,
Mm-hmm.
sat in with that, and I was like, wow, okay, we're doing everything wrong. That's why it's not working. Okay. So I took we have a separate certified nutrition coach. And I said, you know what? I'm going to pay to do a separate mentorship with just Cynthia. You and I are going to sit in with her.
Oh,
We're going to
wow.
figure out yeah, we're going to figure out this whole thing. So I got a hold of Cynthia Foddy directly and said, hey, what do you do? We want to do what you do. And so we sat down with her for an hour and we built out a whole 12-week program. And I was, again, scared, fearful. I don't know if it's going to work, because we literally went from like a month or like a 4-week or 6-week program to suddenly a 12-week. And it was double the cost, right? And I thought, I don't know if this is going to work, man. And in the first 2 weeks, we grabbed 7 and we had 0. So we had 7 and we've just been adding people. And because how we changed how we actually present it and then the support we provide, I think people really thought, oh, I can actually make a change here instead of, a throwaway amount that doesn't have a lot of support that they can just let go of. So that's going to be a huge thing that we're excited about. And again, Two Brain has provided that support. I don't know if a lot of people really look at these office hours, but they're so valuable. There was one on sales last week and I didn't catch it, but I was able to, I ran down Coop and I was like, hey, send me that link. And he sent me the link and I watched it and it was like, here we go. And I'm doing a whole training this next week on the sales process using that specific information that I grabbed in that Zoom call.
So listeners, Chad is talking about office hours. These are available for Two Brain clients. Every week we have a specialist. We'll teach a concept, and it could be nutrition. It could be making your sales funnel better. It could be better marketing assets. I teach media ones sometimes. There's all sorts of different things that are available to Two Brain clients. That's in addition to your monthly work with a mentor and all the other stuff. So it's a value add there, and there's some really cool stuff. Chad, I want to ask you about this. There are gym owners out there who are struggling and listening and said, like, man, I wish I could earn more for my gym. I don't know what to do. What's your number one piece of advice? Send them out with something that they can do today to start earning
Sure.
more money.
All right. Well, I can't say it enough. You've got to get a mentor. It's the single most effective and impactive thing that has changed our business. You got to get somebody that knows what they're doing. I would say stop trying to reinvent the wheel. All right. I think we all, as entrepreneurs get started in this and think, all right, I know what I'm doing. I'll figure this out. Right. But most of this has already been done. The mistakes have been made. So don't do that. Get a mentor, get somebody in there, then listen to them, trust them, and then execute, right? Because sometimes we get this information and then we think, oh, I'm going to do it. And then we don't execute it. You've got to execute it and trust it. Then related to that, work on making the best possible experience and value for your members. Dial that stuff in. And there's a lot of support for that with your mentorship service. Make sure your members know that you care about their goals. Have a definitive thing that you write these down and a step-by-step process to getting them to achieve that. Then have ongoing support for that with your 90-day goal reviews, in-body scans, etc. That way they really see that you care about what's happening. Build a great team, right? I know it's hard when you're doing all this stuff by yourself, right? At the start. But as soon as you can get to a place where you can get somebody to offload some of the stuff so that you can build the business better, get that on your team, find somebody who does those things better than what you do them, right? And then take care of them, right? Pay them well. Like this is something I know we pay our coaches better than what I know of in anywhere in the city, right? So that they want to stay with you. Constantly invest in them so that they get more education and they feel like you care about what they're doing. Allow them opportunities to build business inside of your business, that entrepreneurialism. And then all of this will build your confidence to be able to charge what it's worth, right? And then have that confidence in yourself to ask for that and then these members are going to stick around for longer, right? And then finally, as soon as possible, pay yourself, right? Pay yourself and make it a regular thing, make it a consistent thing, automate it, right?
Mhm.
And then work off that profit first so that you're giving yourself some money, you get some reward for the hard work that you're doing. I mean, my wife and I put in 80, 90, 100-hour work weeks when we started. It
Mhm.
was wild. But get that back, give yourself more time to work-life balance, right? But pay yourself. And then you're going to start to see some fruits of your labor and feel better about this.
I love it. Step one is get a mentor. We'll put a link in the show notes. Book a call if you want to talk about this. The mentor will tell you one thing to do at a time. It'll be the thing you need to do right now, and you'll knock them off the list. And it won't be, I need to figure out all the stuff of a business. It'll be one thing, and you'll take action on that one thing. And it's a sprint. Our wrap up program is a 12-week sprint. The ROI on it is incredible. If you want to hear more about it and want to get to the level that Chad's at, book a call today. Chad, thanks so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. I love hearing that a gym that was going in a nosedive is now heading into the sky. That is awesome. Congrats to you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate having me on.
I love it. We'll get you back when you buy that real estate. That was Chad Pinther. This is Run a Profitable Gym. This is where the world's best gym owners tell you exactly what they're doing so that you can have the same success. Please subscribe for more episodes on your way out. And if you're on YouTube, I love it if you would leave a comment or hit that like button.